Welcome to Talking Landscape Photography. We're just getting a few things set up here, letting people into the Zoom. And tonight we're really excited to have with us Jim Picot. And Jim is a fantastic photographer based on the central coast of New South Wales. It's about 2 hours north of Sydney, something like that, Jim?
Yeah, hour and a half to
Yep.
two. Luke,
Yeah,
be on the train.
and really beautiful place. I think you kind of live in a tourist destination there anyway, don't you, Jim, with all the beaches that you have to play with?
Yeah,
Um,
beautiful.
yeah, absolutely. And so the other really exciting thing is that Jim recently took the first prize in the International Drone Awards. Was it the Siena Drone Awards or something like that?
Yeah, Siena Drone
Yeah.
Awards, which is quite simply, from all the research, and I've done some since, the biggest aerial photography contest in the world. And even though it's called Drone Awards, it's actually any type of. In fact, if you look on the description, drone isn't even, doesn't even use that word. It's just like number 8 in a series of helicopters, missiles, hot air balloons, you name it, anything that flies. And I didn't even realize, Jim, that I think I saw there was 126 countries involved in, so it's pretty big.
Yeah, no,
Um,
and
yeah. So
congratulations to you, Paul, too. For
what's
your,
that?
congratulations to you too, Paul, for your
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I get that's my little baby right behind me on the wall.
yeah,
Which category
Um,
did you? It was the abstract one.
so I won the abstract, and Jim won the overall humdinger,
Wow.
the
Was
top
there a?
gong.
Did you win another category as well, Jim?
got two like commendations
Yeah.
in the sports category. Yeah, two.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, fantastic. That's awesome. And I guess what's really would you say that your work now is almost all drone based, or do you?
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, rarely pick up a normal digital camera now, Luke.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And do you reckon there's a reason for that? Like, is it the ease of use and that kind of thing, or?
I think it's just the I think Australia's got a high percentage of photographers. Like, there's a lot, in like around the world. I think Australia's got a really high percentage of people taking photos, and I've been taking photos a long time. It's just sort of not that I got sick of it, but just nice when I discovered drones. Just that this different perspective and the challenge of getting shots with drones, of getting like foreground interest, or yeah, it's just being a like private pilot as well. It's just
Oh,
always
right.
being in the air, yeah. So
A what sort of pilot, Jim?
helicopter and aeroplane, both.
Oh well.
Fixed wing in '86 and my helicopter in 2000. And, yeah, do aerobatics in the airplane. I fly a Berlanca Citabria as an aerobatic airplane. I hire it. I don't own it. I wish I did own it, but and I got my license up in Newcastle in 2000. But the helicopter company moved down to Belmont Aero Pelican, and that's where airborne wind sports are now, and Westpac helicopter, and the skydiving joint. So there's a little conglomerate there at Belmont, the old Aero Pelican. The Ansett Airlines used to own it, actually.
All right.
Airstrip there. Yeah, and Skyline Aviation, used to be Newcastle Helicopters, Skyline Aviation. Run
Oh,
out of
awesome.
there now, it's probably high from. Yeah.
So
Did you sorry, let you go
you go,
first.
Paul. You go.
Did you start taking aerial photographs from actual, real aircraft, if that's the right word, or does it kind of work the other way around?
No, I just started taking photos. My first camera was a Ricoh, it was now Ricoh, film camera back in about in the late '70s. But yeah, I took up flying in '85 and got my license in '86. So yeah, it's sort of two separate things. Yeah, just took, I have taken photos from out of an aeroplane. Actually, I've taken some photos while I'm actually flying with the stick between your knees and get a shot out of the window. But,
I wasn't sure people could do that, and then I went up with a pilot on a microlight in Monument Valley, and not only was he flying basically a hang glider with an engine, which was scary enough, he was
yeah.
taking photographs, and he was running a red film camera on the nose of the aircraft at the same time. So he was doing all three, and I was just like,
Yeah.
"What? Who's actually flying this thing?"
And I've been up those motorised hang gliders. They're called free things, motorised hang gliders, microlights and trikes. But I went up, first time I went up with those is that, because I flew hang gliders for 12 years as well.
Oh, man.
And well, he's a hang glider pilot friend of mine, but he also flew trikes, or, motorized hang gliders. And I went up on those, I think it was about 1989 was my first time on one of those. That's how safe they are. And we were flying like 5 foot above the waves along Budgetwoy Beach in a motorized hang glider. Like,
Safe as houses.
Across. Yeah, and we took off out of Dawson. Like, I flew with him a few times, and it was amazing. Yeah, and like they're very safe. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I wasn't quite feeling that way when the wind started flapping and we had to land in the middle of a motorway.
The middle of a motorway?
Well, he was like, "Oh, is there any trucks coming?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "We're going to land." And I was like, "Oh."
How can we land in the motorway? What was it? An emergency, was it?
Oh, there was something flapping in the wing, and we were like, "Well, you don't just let that just sit there when it's the only thing holding you up." So we had to land and do a quick tape up.
Wow.
Yeah. Turned out it wasn't too big. We'd been repairing the thing all night long, so it was he'd done a test run already before anyone else got with him. But then
wow.
Yeah, I didn't ask too many questions. I didn't want to know, or I would have just got off.
Wow.
And walked
is bliss.
Walked 30 k's back to where we took off from.
Did you land like on the grass next to the motorway?
No, right down the middle.
Wow. Wow, that was.
It was way out in the middle of the desert, in Utah, but it was the main highway in at Monument Valley, so it wasn't nothing.
It's sort of like similar to landing on the Nullarbor or something, But
yeah, probably similar to that.
Minus the what do you call it? The trucks, the big trucks with the Godfrey.
Yeah, I had to get out and hold traffic and kind of push it off the road a bit, and then we had to wait for the trucks to go past so we could take off down the middle again.
Nice.
Yeah,
We might bring up a few of Jim's awesome pictures, and you can chat to us a bit about the pics and what it was like being there, or having the drone over the top, I should say. But I'll just share screen and bring them up, and you should be able to see them there, Jim. So I'll just share to here, and hopefully that will, there we go. That's all coming up.
Yeah.
Yep.
So for those of you who didn't know, this is the single image that won the biggest aerial contest in the world, and I've got my own sort of interpretations about it. I mean, I was thinking about during, with the world going through what it's through, and with COVID, what an absolutely gorgeous symbolism to just send out into the world, just from the heart shape itself, obviously, but I have no idea the story behind it. I've seen kind of versions of this, I think, from maybe other images you've got, Jim. But tell us all about it.
You read my mind, Luke. I was thinking the same thing with all the COVID things going on in the world, etc. And I thought, because with the competition, there's that many incredible other shots on there, like images like volcanoes and just incredible landscapes and all sorts of incredible shots. I thought, why do they like pick my shot, sort of thing, but then, as you say, like a bit of symbolism there with the COVID thing, and but that might be one reason. But that happened so quick, like it formed the heart, and then I got some, really snapped off some quick shots of it, and then that was the most heart-shaped shot, and then within seconds that was gone. It was just like as rare as seeing a heart-shaped cloud or something, but as you know, with those bait balls, they're continually changing shape. Like sometimes that's what they call them, bait balls, I suppose. A lot of times they're circles, perfect circles, almost perfect circles.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're like cigar shaped or all sorts of, wiggly shapes. But and when I took that, I was pretty stoked, really stoked to get it. There's about 7 sharks in there in that shot, actually. There's
really?
Yeah.
Oh my God! Because I need to really make out the one obvious one.
Yeah, there's not the obvious one that shark's in the light.
Yeah.
But there's other sharks.
Is that one just there?
Right next to it.
Yeah, another one there, and there's another one in the to the left of it, and there's another one to the right of it, and then there's another one up to the top left, and then middle left.
Wow.
Right. I think there's at least 7 sharks in there. I think.
Do they work together in some sort of strategy, or they just happen to be?
They just they just seem to sort of what's the word for it? Patrol. Patrol through the fish, and they just part way. Just like with the seals are sneaky. go along like parallel to the bait ball, and then just do a 90-degree turn, just fly in there, like must be like 30 knots or something. It's not super quick, and the fish still part way for it. Like the fish is so quick. And I actually got a shot a couple of weeks ago of a shark actually eating one of the salmon for the first time ever. You never ever see them eat a fish ever. I've never seen it, only like that once, and I captured it a couple of weeks ago.
Wow.
I better see it on the, if you scroll through on the Facebook page.
Yeah, we'll do that a bit later. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Do you know what the type of fish and type of sharks were, Jim?
Yeah, they're just grey nurses. Like they're harmless sharks. Yeah, I sent Luke through.
Unless you're a fish.
Yeah, unless you're a fish, or mind you, after saying harmless, I wouldn't like to be next to one out in the ocean. You know.
Because they get pretty big, don't they?
Yeah, they can get to 8 or 10 foot, maybe bigger.
It looks like that one's going to have a pretty decent feed anyway, so maybe that one's not so much of a threat in the end. And so is that you sort of, when you must be an amazing sort of thing to track these and see the shapes changing and try and it's almost like a canvas unfolding before your eyes. We were talking a little bit earlier as well about some of the drones having a bit of a shutter lag, and would this be a case where you almost just have to keep pushing the shutter?
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. Just keep hitting it time, and just one, just keep hitting it non-stop, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. Because would you run a pretty fast shutter speed generally with something like that?
Yeah, that's the only trouble too when you do top downs. There's a lot of light there, mostly getting 60th of a second roughly.
Okay.
Off the top of my head, but if it's like if the sun's not up or whatever reason, there's not as much light, I'll bump it up to 400 ISO and 2.8 or something, or 3.2, and just to get a 100th of a second. You don't need to get a super fast shutter speed like not as you would with a surfing shot. 60th or 30th it must be the slowest you go, because the sharks they're not moving that quick. They're just so 30th of a second would be most of the lowest you go, but that'd be enough to freeze it good enough to be a sharp image.
Yep.
Yeah,
right.
Have you used a polarizer on this one, Jim?
I don't use polarizers. I don't like them on drones. The only filter I use is just a straight ND filter for like slow shutter work, doing intentional slow shutter, like with the water swishing around rocks and those sort of shots. But the thing I don't like about polarizing filters is that just the colors get messed up too much. The blues get too blue, and maybe if I was shooting a waterfall or something, I'd use a polarizer on the drone, but that'd be mostly about all. But,
yeah, it gets tricky when you're stitching with skies and stuff as well.
Yeah, exactly. That's another thing. Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Do you mainly do single shots, or do you do a lot of?
I don't do much like burst mode. The only time I use say burst mode is because I don't use burst mode on surfing photography because the screen goes like black, or you lose the screen for how long it takes to get the spin off the 5 shots, and then by that time you've lost the guy on the wave, or you got to catch back up again, or lose him or whatever. But like say if you're shooting an egret down the lake at sunset and you're pretty close to the egret and you're waiting for it to take off, and then I'll have it on burst mode. And that way, because when it's flapping its wings, you get the wings in the right spot. That's about the only time I use burst mode. So the rest of the time, just hit the shutter button, single shots.
Do you do any panoramas?
Yeah, I'm stitching panoramas, sort of thing. Like stitch the image, which becomes a panorama, sort of thing.
Oh, as in you don't use it for the panoramic mode through the software, you just shoot individually and then do it yourself?
Yeah, I've never used it actually. I never.
Oh, right, interesting.
Never used it.
Why is that, if you don't mind me asking?
I just like doing it manually. I've heard I haven't even checked the true. I think it's isn't it only JPEG, or is it easy to shoot raw?
Oh no, you can save RAWs as well. Yeah. But you obviously.
Sorry, Luke.
Oh, that's all right. You obviously have a lot more control. I mean, with the pre-programmed panorama modes in the drones, they are very kind of you know, you can only do, it only does what it does. There's only a fixed pattern, whereas you might, like, I think in later on there's a few examples where the panorama you've got is looking straight down, and then also going towards the horizon, and that would be not a pano you could do on a program mode. And also, I think, would you do bracketing, exposure bracketing as well sometimes?
I don't do bracketing.
Okay.
I just find I don't have to worry about it. I just do single shots. And,
Yep.
because the dynamic range is pretty good on the Mavic 2 Pro. It's just all, you're shooting raw, all the information's there, you know.
Yep.
And you can just get really nice images out of it. And another thing I do when I do stitching, I take about, depending on how excited I am or how good the image you think the image might be, I usually take 3 to 5 sets of the same thing over and over. So this is taking a million shots. I usually take like 150 to 250 images every time I shoot, like
Wow.
roughly speaking, you know, because with a stitch I'll do anything between 3 and 7 images to one stitch, usually 5 or 6, you know. And so if you say doing a 5 image stitch, I'll do at least 3 to 5 lots of those 5 image stitches, because sometimes they don't stitch very well.
Yep.
Because I've noticed with the drone, especially if you fly it really closely and you watch it really closely, they just move around a little bit, even if it's not much wind. Sometimes they sit rock solid, and other times they move around it, and they get all these quirky little problems every now and then. My one at the moment, you can be sitting dead still with no wind or a little bit of wind, and it just starts going to the left by itself. You've got to bring it back around again, and then it stops. But you've got to notice it, because you're going all this trouble doing these stitches, and with the slider going off to the left, you know, you've got all these useless stitches. They get all these funny little idiosyncrasies that you've got to like look out for. And but yeah, generally speaking, everything's okay. I mean, yeah, just take 3 to 5 lots of stitches, especially if it's windy too, you know, get the drone movement, you know, it's going a bit up or down or a little bit buffeted, you know, and it can just be enough to throw the whole thing out. Quite often too, if you say you do a 6 image stitch, 4 images will stitch and the other 2 don't, stuff like that, you know. So
Is that just in Lightroom you do the stitching?
yeah, just in Lightroom.
Yep.
But
It's pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah, I've tested it out in Photoshop too, and it's exactly the same.
Okay.
Yeah, Photo for me anyway.
Yep.
I've checked it in Photoshop, and it's the same thing. It's very rare that I miss it or don't get what I want. You know, usually it works out fine. You know, if it misses an image, you know, it sort of doesn't matter. You know, you might have lost a bit of sky and think, oh, that, you know, it sort of still works. You know.
Yep. And sometimes I've found too that you can actually, if it's not stitching, you can just omit 1 or 2 images and then it works for whatever reason as well.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And that boundary warp's pretty cool, isn't it? Being able to stretch everything back in. Do you tend to go that way or just more crop in?
Usually use the middle one, or it was the cylindrical one. Sometimes
Okay.
The bottom one.
Perspective.
Perspective. That one can do weird things to the image, and quite often that one can usually works with the vertical stitches, but it doesn't work in the horizontal stitches. And the top one is for vertical stitches. It just brings it in a bit.
Yep.
And then just slide that thing across, and
the boundary warp
tidies up.
Yeah, quite often it even straightens up the horizon really nicely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I might just qualify that for some of the viewers that don't know what we're talking about. When you blend, when you start blending images together, multiple images together, in Photoshop or Lightroom, we're mainly talking about Lightroom, you get 3 different options in terms of the way that it actually blends those images together. And one's called perspective, one's called cylindrical,
spherical.
The other one's called spherical, and they have different effects on the image, and takes quite a while, I think, to experiment and figure out which ones kind of work for what type of images versus vertical panos and horizontals. And the boundary warp is a way that it kind of just, because when they stitch, they often have really weird edging and corners and things, and so the boundary warp is a way of just kind of massaging that out, and then it sort of takes care of that for you. And It even has almost like an idea, a type of content where Fieldwork can do it for you, but that's kind of asking for trouble when you do that, because you're asking it to make up stuff that's not there, and it doesn't. If it's just a blue sky, it might do all right, but everything else, you might be in trouble. But it's a constant sort of dance, even if you've been doing it for a while, about which one to use. And but it's surprisingly simple and easy to do in Lightroom now.
Oh yeah, and the best bit is it's merging raw data as well, so you're not having to make any compromises from that perspective. So yeah, it's certainly makes the workflow a lot quicker with it.
Definitely, so easy, isn't it? So quicker. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And I'm just also interested as well if you have ever tried flying with different apps, or do you just use the DJI app mainly?
Yeah, I just use a DJI app, Luke. Yeah, I've heard there's those other ones.
There's Lychee.
Yeah, Lychee, and I've never even looked into it, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. I've played around with it a little bit, but it's it's always a bit risky using a non-DJI app to fly things with, so I try and avoid that. But one thing I do like about it in Lychee is it does have automated HDR panoramas, or automated exposure bracketed panoramas, which is pretty good. If you're shooting straight into the sun, you can retain all of that detail and a lot of the shadow detail. And do you have an ISO value where you kind of just go, oh yeah, that's no, like I sort of find after 400 or so it starts to not look too good. Yeah,
totally. Yeah, 400's about the limit, I think.
Yeah, right. Well, that we sort of got off topic of this particular image, but it's all very fascinating info for anyone that's into drones. And if you're not into drones, that's some pretty useful information there. If you can refer back to it when you do finally get one. But and this shot was just on the coast as well.
Yeah, just north of Voca, Luke.
Oh right.
Yeah, that's where they seem to hang. The bait fish and the sharks seem to hang from the middle to the north of Voca Beach, and they don't seem to go. Oh, they do go down the southern end, but not as much. Seems to be more to the northern. And another thing I found out, because I know a couple of fishermen, and I found out about the salmon, is they stay in one spot overnight. They have a sleep, or not they actually sleep, but they hang in one spot and stay overnight, and then they move around again the next morning. They stay in like a protected corner, behind a point or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, no, it's great. And when you took it, did you sort of think, oh, I think this image is going to be something will happen with this image, like it's just too good?
I didn't think that at all, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
It's it's nice to have a heart shape of, put it up on Facebook and Instagram, and it's something a bit different. But I didn't think much past that really. I just thought, it's just a sort of another. I knew it was unusual and different, but I didn't think it'd win a major award.
I guess for someone like yourself too, you're very, very prolific in terms of how often you get out there and shooting, and so you're generating so many images over it would be hard to keep track of them sometimes. But would you say you're it almost comes across like you're out almost every morning flying?
Yeah, I am weather dependent. I actually didn't fly this morning because it started raining. I was actually, even though it was like full grey cloud overcast, I was still going to fly and just do some top down slow shutter stuff, stick the ND filter on and just muck around. That's the thing. Another thing I love about the drone, can be nothing happening, you can still think, do something with it, But it started raining, so I didn't fly. But yeah, I usually fly pretty much every day. It might be one day in a week I don't, but
yeah, Jim, that was one of my observations looking at all your work over the years. I actually don't think I know anybody on this planet that shoots and posts as consistently as you do from a drone. It's quite amazing. I'm just like, my first thought is, does a guy ever sleep? Like, he must really early starts, and how does he just constantly find these amazing colors and gorgeous kind of compositions from what must be fairly close to home, just over and over and over and over again. It's quite amazing.
I appreciate it, Paul. But yeah, most of the places I shoot are like, 5 to 30 minutes drive, 40 minutes max. Like Patonga to the south's 40, 45 minutes, and Caffrey Bay is like 35 minutes to the north, you know, and that's, yeah. And then you've got out west, a little bit out west, but yeah, it's mainly the, you've got the inland waterways like Brisbane Water and Tuggerah Lakes and Lake Mamora, and yeah, so even where I live at Blue Bay, you've got the lake, like say 2 or 3 kilometres to the west of me is the lake, you know, so it's like on a peninsula. So yeah, so you're sort of lucky to have the western waterways for shooting sunsets, you know. And it's good shooting. You can shoot sunsets obviously over the ocean looking back towards the west too, but it's good having that the lake, you know, so foreground interest and stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
So Jim, how do you decide where to go?
I'm like, a lot of the time I don't know where I'm going to. I'm actually just driving, and because I look for, when I say drive, most of the time I go sort of south, and if there's no wind, then I'll go to certain spots because there's no winds, because it's got the go for like the inland sort of water where there's no wind to get the glassy effect. But if there's wind, well then I'll stick to the coast, you know. So I sort of check on the inland water first. When I say inland water, it's like there's lagoons right behind the beach, so you're still right next to the beach, but I just check the lagoons first to see if there's, whether it's glassy or not, you know. And then plus the tide, like, well, you know, if it's going to be an unreal sunrise, well, then you just like think of somewhere for foreground interest, or, you know, just a really like one of the better locations, so to speak. And then, but if there's not much cloud around, well, then you got to think about like top-down shots, or something where there's good foreground interest, where the cloud's not as important, you know, or fog. You know, if it's down Patonga and Davistown and stuff, it's more fog prone there because it comes down from that basin up the Hawkesbury River. It just comes up the river, it comes out through Patonga, and then comes north up towards Davistown and Empire Bay Way and that too. So check the weather the night before too, and check the tides and the wind and the direction and all that sort of thing.
And then I guess if you're out there so much, you learn so much about these locations, so you can almost by instinct probably work out where it would work really well given the conditions that are there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Right, Luke. Yeah, it's even if it's like a cloudless sky, you can sort of, like, say for example, a couple of days ago I went up to Caffrey Bay, and there's no cloud, but because they've got that coal ladder or the jetty there, you get the shadows off the jetty, and you know, you get like a bit less sky in and focus more on a lot of foreground interest with the leading line of the jetty and things like that, you know. So yeah, you just sort of think, what can you get when there's no cloud, sort of thing.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. We might move on to the next shot. See what we've got here. Wow. Okay. Fantastic.
That was a big day. That was we've had so many good swells this year. I think we got like, wasn't it something like 4 big swells in 6 weeks? Like, it
was at least 3 massive ones. I know, because I was out surfing on all of them as well, Jim, but in Tassie. 3 really big ones, and I think maybe 4 up the coast. I think one of those didn't really get to Tassie, so.
Yeah, right. But
and you guys generally got the brunt of these ones.
Yeah, you did.
Because they really smashed into the coast, and it's quite unusual to get. Well, I don't think I remember a winter where there's been that many in a row.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like the surfers were so stoked. I just saw getting all these amazing waves.
Like, people are just totally surfed out, which doesn't happen because the East Coast of Australia, I mean, it does have fantastic waves, but there's also quite regularly long periods without good waves.
Yeah, sure. Especially summer, like winter. You know, you get the ground guaranteed at least a few good ground swells in winter. Summer you get all the, you know, nor'east, you know, winds, rubbishy wind swell sort of thing.
Yeah, the wind. So basically that means so people that don't know, the winds are huge. Not only is the swell a big factor, but the wind direction is actually an even bigger factor. So,
exactly.
So here, if you look at the wave, it's a very, very light offshore wind, or not much wind really. And it's like it's like you say combing your hair. So if you comb your hair back, like what we call an offshore wind, it cleans it up and lines it up and makes it all look good. But if the wind's blowing what's called onshore, which is from the ocean onto the shore, it's like ruffling your hair and just making a whole mess of things. it's a very simple analogy, but it can change the quality of surf in a minute. Exactly. If it goes from offshore to onshore and vice versa, you can go from incredible waves to just rubbish in just a few minutes. It's quite amazing.
It is.
So not only do you need to get the swell, but you need to actually get lucky enough to that swell arise with the right winds. And quite often with big swells, that's not the case because they're big storms that are pushing the water onto the shore. And what was also amazing about these swells is all of them, they swelled around a bit, didn't they, Jim? But they ended up at least getting periods of time for each one where it was clean and offshore like this.
Exactly, yeah. No, as you say, Paul, yeah, the winds, just everything, and with the ground swell, wind will blow like west or southwest for 3 or 4 days and holds all the swell back out on the horizon. Then when it like drops off, just all pours in, and but still staying offshore. But and sometimes, as you say too, like the first couple of days can be really messy and like a washing machine. But once it evens out, it just all tidies up and just get these amazing waves. Yeah.
Mm. So where are we here, Jim?
That's Avoca again. That's actually Avoca. Avoca, yeah. But there was good swell everywhere. I think that was the Saturday. On the Friday afternoon, there was this bommy near the entrance beach near where I live that very rarely breaks, and that was massive too. And actually, Kyle was out there Kyle and Cara, they live on the coast now, and they won the block a couple of years ago. And he's actually a really good surfer, and I got some shots of him out there and some other really good local surfers at that Horseshoe Reef. And then there's this other bommy that they surf too, and there's Avoca, and there's a lot of places breaking really good and Foresters Beach and McMaster's apparently was very good too. And yeah, so there's a lot of places breaking really well. So you sort of got to decide, oh man, where I'm going to go, like get all excited, think, oh, you want to try and go everywhere, but you've got to sort of just pick the right spots and go there and get off to the next place. And time is of the essence when it's like that.
I mean, are you trying video too, or are you just doing stills?
Stills, yeah. I could forget and take video because I'm
hard to do both. It really is.
It's good to do. I do a bit of video, but not much. But I mean, you can shoot, not cheap, but shooting video is good too because you can just shoot video and do grabs off the video, even though the quality's not crash shot. You can still get a half decent shot off it and do a video and just get everything.
Yeah, I haven't tried that yet. I'm a bit curious. Like I'm keen to learn how to do. Like when I see really masterful drone video of high level surfing, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And the world's pretty thirsty for that kind of content too, at least the surfing world anyway. And when you get waves the size and the mass and the ferocity that you're getting where you were, it's kind of has a universal appeal, everyone gets an awe of the power of nature. And I get nervous having my drones out there near big waves. So and also I got mixed feelings around how the surfers are going to feel with me buzzing around. I mean, the last thing on this guy's mind is anything else than staying alive and making the bottom turn.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know him personally, but my next door neighbor's wife's brother. Yeah. So there's a connection there, but
has it got like a flotation vest on? I can't tell.
I think he might have actually. Does look like he's got a.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. There's something around his shoulders.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I think he.
Yeah, I think it looks like there's a jacket there.
It looks like a life jacket on. Yeah.
Yeah, that shows how big the wave is when you zoom in like that, doesn't it?
Oh my goodness.
That'd be good, I'd say. Conservatively.
And do you get them often you can sort of track the surfers down and give them one of these awesome pics or sell them on, or?
Yeah, he wanted to buy that image off me, but he sort of just didn't follow through. He didn't want to. I would have sold it to him super cheap. I virtually cost price because it's him.
Yeah, I always feel the same. Yeah.
But no, he's a really nice guy. I spoke to him on the phone, even though I don't know him personally. But he lives at Avoca.
Yep.
And but no, the surfers. I know a lot of the surfers. I used to surf myself quite a few years ago and surfed for many years. But I get a lot of ear troubles from surfing and just the crowds and stuff too. But I wasn't the type to fight for waves like you got to fight for waves, but no, I know a lot of the surfers, and they're really good blokes and good girls, and they love it. Like I always, they're territorial, so they don't like you're saying where you shot the waves at. Like I just say good surfers, Central Coast today, sort of thing. No, I keep away from them. What I'm trying to say is I keep away from them when there's no sets. I just come in when the sets come through and get closer.
I was just going to ask you how you manage that, because I always feel I kind of do the same. Like I just hover on the coast somewhere, just high enough to see when the swell's coming, and then just race out.
Yeah, I sort of keep blow a bit away and then just whiz over, and but they don't mind. They actually, I think they even like drones more so these days, because they know they keep an eye out for sharks, because a lot of shark attacks lately, and I think they feel a bit safe knowing that you're keeping a watch out shark wise as well.
Yeah, right.
I even saying to a couple of my surfer friends, he even said to me, this guy called Tom, he said you'll have to give us some sort of warning thing on your drone. I said, okay, I said, if I see a shark, I'll just go 360-degree turns continuously with the drone, and you'll know there's a shark there. I said, that'll be our code,
I went out surfing at this place called in Pirates Bay in Eaglehawk Neck, and there's a mushroom-shaped reef out the back that's quite famous for the surfers down here. Is not for the faint-hearted wave, and I ended up surfing it alone for about an hour and a half, and I paddled all the way in, which is a long way, and then one of my friends arrived from the mainland, and I didn't even know he was coming, and he'd just been flying his drone around out to the same area, and he came in and he's like, dude, was that you out there? I was like, well, yeah. Dude, there's like 3 sharks right underneath you. I was just like, okay. They were pretty big. I had no idea.
They must be bronze whales and white pointers.
Oh yeah.
I tend to, like, I've been surfing my whole life, and I deliberately don't dive. I don't want to know what's under there, because it would probably put me off.
Yeah, that's right.
And a lot of fishermen and divers have said that to me. Just said, you don't want to know what's under there. just enjoy yourself on the top and hang out with your friends, and what happens.
Yeah, I think too with the sharks, I think they're not really interested. It's only if they bump you or just wonder what it is, and they have a little nip or something. You're in there.
Well, a little nip from a shark might take half your leg off.
That's the problem. My brother got bitten by a wobbegong at the entrance beach just last year, and had to get an ambulance and stuff. He was just swimming. He still surfs, but he was just having a swim, and I think he actually trod on it or trod next to it or something, and it bit him. And they reckon they're terrible to get bitten by, because their teeth go backwards.
You get sort of stuck in there.
Like a lockjaw on there.
Oh.
But he was lucky to get lockjaw, but the ambulance came and he got stitched up. And
so there was a fatal shark attack. It was at Snapper Rocks just a week or two ago.
Yeah, that was terrible.
Just probably close to the most crowded surf break in the world.
Incredible. There's like about 50 or 60 guys out there, and girls. There's a lot of girls surf up that way, and it's amazing. It's all happening, and a lot of people didn't know what was going on. Yeah, it's bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know a more crowded lineup in the world. I mean, it's quite regular to get 300 plus guys out on the one wave.
That's a crazy place. I also surfed up there years ago when I was young. Greenmount, Rainbow Bay, and Snapper Rocks, and amazing break.
Is that Sunshine Coast?
Karumba.
Oh, down there. Okay, yeah.
They wrecked Kira too, and they done their dredging there. Kira Point used to be amazing. They wrecked that break.
Yeah, in the 80s and 90s, that was probably the preeminent wave in Australia in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And then they stuffed it up. Early Heads was right up there as well, and then it all kind of changed with the sand to Greenmount and Snapper.
Yeah.
We digress, gentlemen. It is nice talking about surfing, though. But
well,
you and Jim are gonna have a beer, Paul, and
you gotta watch yourself.
Oh yeah, no, nice. Well, they is this a jet ski? Is it?
jet ski, yeah.
Yeah.
That was my first drone. I think that was a P3 Advanced. What do you call it?
Well, it's too late because I've already judged it. I'm pretty sure I judged a version of this photo that was panoramic this week. Would that be right, Jim?
Oh, so you're doing on the Epson?
Yeah, yeah.
You're right. Yeah, mostly. Yeah, put
Well,
some.
I had no idea whose it was, obviously, and I finished judging it, so I can probably allowed to talk about it now. But I won't tell you what score you got. But I was like, wait a minute, I recognise this shot. Is it a fluke that someone had the exact same S curve and color palette and texture? And I was like, probably not.
All this cheating you do with panos. I mean, I do. Trying to get a pano out of a normal shot. You know what I mean?
Properama, yeah.
Properama. I think it's what most of the entries are. I think.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's what can you do, but.
That's gorgeous. One thing I've really noticed about your images from the drone, Jim, is your colors are really good, and I find drone files really hard to edit after using some of the Sony sensors or even Canon cameras and that. Do you have a bit of a process for how you get your colors, or is it just?
Really not. I get a lot of colors just in. It's equivalent to Camera Raw.
Yeah.
Just those 4 controls, 4 sliders in Lightroom, the shadows, the darks, the whites, and the highlights. I just sort of push those to their limits almost. I mean, well, sort of, via histogram,
Yeah.
And it's just amazing the color you can pull out of drone shots just with that.
All right.
And then I just sort of go into Photoshop and find selective color really handy.
Okay.
And even the in selective color, in neutral, the neutral part of selective color, you got the 5.
When it's looking at the greys.
Yeah. The grey, and yeah. Go to neutral. I think it's neutral. Yeah, and or grey, neutral, and don't touch the bottom. That's like dark, but the other 4 colors like the blue, the yellow, the green, and the other 4 colors. Play around with those, and it's amazing. They're so powerful. Like, you can sort of play around with those ones for certain whatever color you want to change, and then fine tune it, and go to say red or green or whatever, and then tune it again via that. The colors within green, and just play around with the colours there. It's pretty powerful.
Yeah, I just always tend to find I need to do some kind of colour work to the drone images for whatever reason. I found it really unusual that there's not a colour profile that loads when, like in Lightroom or Camera Raw. There's no Mavic 2 Pro colour profile like you have with your other cameras. So like it's not calibrated or something like that. So it's very strange.
Yeah, there's no lens correction. Yeah.
Well, actually, what I've found out with I believe when you open up a Mavic 2 Pro file in Lightroom, it's actually automatically lens profile corrected, and so that's why because I've opened the drone files up in Capture One. Yeah. And you're actually seeing the true raw file then, and it's actually a bit wider than what you actually see in Lightroom. So you actually have even more image to play with, which is really bizarre. So it's worth having a play with that, I reckon, Jim. Just Capture One, because it's weird. It looks a bit more distorted because it clearly hasn't applied the lens profile correction, but you actually have a little bit more file to play with, which is really strange. So so that's, and I find the colors are a bit more accurate as well from Capture One for the drone files as well. So, but the downside is you don't have all of the beautiful merging and all of the other tools you have in Lightroom. So, but it's
jump out of there, over to jump.
Yeah, you could do that. Yeah, you could export them all as TIFFs and then use Lightroom to actually stitch them after that. It's a bit more convoluted of a process, but definitely it's definitely worth looking at from the little investigation I've done with that. I was surprised.
It's really interesting. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
that's a good tip. But they are they're pretty flat. I usually have mine set on cloudy, have it sit on cloudy, because otherwise I find it to be too blue. The blues are too dominant in like auto or whatever.
Yep.
And then overset, of course they're raw, but you know, put it on vivid, but because they're raw images, not gonna have much effect on it.
You can always, you can always. And do you do like JPEG and RAW, or just always just the RAW? Don't worry about the JPEG.
Yeah, ages years ago with the first on the drone, I used to do both, and I found I never even touched a JPEG, so I just stopped the JPEGs.
Yeah, you generally need a special purpose for the JPEGs if you're going to go that way.
Yeah, if you shoot for like real estate or something, or for whatever reason, you know.
Yeah, cool. And so with this shot here, you're obviously he's come in from the top of the frame.
Yeah.
And so, or it could be she, sorry, but and then I guess you've tracked the motion there and waited for the right time to.
I think I would have taken a few shots from memory. That was a really, it's mostly 5 years ago I took that shot, and with the P3 advanced, no P3 professional. With the P3s, they come out in advanced and professional.
Yep.
I forget what the differences were, minimal difference. But yeah, shot it with that, and it's one of those ones just happened real quick and just all fell into place. Like you just come out of nowhere and great, you know. This guy just started doing the full on, you know, but the jet skis like, they go pretty crazy, and you know, I thought, this is great. Yeah, they just happened to have that, you know, lowish tide and the nice sand designs under the water, and yeah, I was stoked. It's definitely one of my favourite shots. You know, your favourites.
The colours are gorgeous. And the guy didn't end up, the jet ski didn't end up hitting the sandbar at all.
You jetted back out.
It looks like he's about to go into a shallow patch.
Yeah, it's a top spot, that one, Edalong. I love it. Like, that used to be my favourite sort of inland waterway, but now Davistown is, because I don't know why I didn't discover that place sooner. I used to sort of think of it as a sunset spot, and I don't normally travel far for sunsets as much because there's a bit more traffic around.
Yep.
You know, sort of like peak hour traffic, and not that, you know, it's the Central Coast, it's not the city, but you know, you still got a lot more cars on the road, and they tend to just like shoot really close by in sunsets, and but no, there, Davistown, just so much to shoot there. It's an amazing place. There's just a lot of boats, and yeah, it just gives you a lot of compositions there, you know. Yeah, so you can just keep going back to and finding more compositions. Yeah, it's really good.
Cool. Let's see what else we've got. I do love these ripples up. Where's my mouse? Up in this side here. I'm assuming that you've got a fair few shots for that sort of pattern, those patterns, because it's just gorgeous.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, the ripples, sand designs.
Yeah. This is a bit more of a close up of one of these bait balls.
Yeah. I've got some ones where the fish are more stand out more, but I sort of wasn't quick enough to sort of find one in time. But yeah, that's the lights shining on the shark there, on the grey nurse, and a nice light. I did, you know, enhance the colour a bit on the shark, I must say.
Yep.
But yeah, it's just sort of a closer up shot. Probably about 20 foot above the water or something there, you know. Pretty low.
Yeah. And that, do you ever try, I guess because there's so much movement, you couldn't really do multiple frames and try and make that work. It's really just a one-shot sort of moment, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. You can't really like do a stitch or something. Yeah, you just got to like, just single shots really for the bait balls. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Jim, I feel like one of the signatures for me about your work is one, the color palette that you managed to find out of your files is like almost no one's ever seen. So I'm really glad Lukey asked that question, because I would have asked it, because I find the color on my drones a disaster most of the time, and somehow you turn your images, the color quality of images into paintings just about every time. And the other thing
is a lot more accurate. You don't like it, true to life.
It's in a very believable, accessible sort of way, which is what is so unique about it, and what I personally and Luke too find so hard to do. But secondly, you have this capacity for blending horizons like almost no one I've ever seen as well, and a lot of your images. And this sort of speaks to that for me. You know, how do you tell where the water finishes and the sky begins? You just can't.
So dreamy in that, yeah, sort of ethereal sort of quality. Yeah.
Is that how do you achieve that so
To
consistently?
be more honest, I'm not that pretty average on Photoshop, but when I say, you know, compared to what some people like, but one of the tricks I do with, say it's a trick, but something I look out for with the drone is make sure the mast or the highest point of the boat is below the horizon, and then and so I've just put the marching ants, what do you call it, the
Like the selection tool.
put that around the there's a thin strip of land there, you know, then just take that, put the quick selection tool around the thin strip of land, and then the what do you call it, content aware, and then that's gone. But then you got a messy, you know, you got all the mess to fix up, you know. And then that's the hard part, is just cloning it in. So cloning the clouds back over the messy bits that have been taken out, you know. And that's mostly the hardest part, to make it look natural, which it is natural. It's all natural. Like those reflections are real. It's all, you know. I've never taken a composite in my life. I'm not into composite images. Don't get me wrong, I like composites. You know, I mean, I don't like composites all the time, but you know, you see some beautiful composites. You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what I've done is just taken a thin strip of land out, and then just brought the clouds back in to make it look to cover the land taken out, basically.
Mm. Yeah, and it obviously just completely changes the feel of the image when you do that too.
It's amazing, even when it's still roughed up, like when your first you know, it comes up after you hit the content aware button, and it just goes, oh, you know, this looks much better, you know.
You must come across a few where it doesn't work as well.
Yeah, somewhere it's no, I'm gonna leave this one, bother with this one. but yeah, and I just use the clone stamp tool, you know, and I usually go over hard at 100%, and then back off, you know, to like 30% or something, opacity, and then just sort of, you know, sort of go finish it off, and yeah.
And a shot like this would be maybe like a couple frames. You'd have one for the.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
That's about a 3 image or 4 image stitch, I'd say.
Okay.
I found when you're really close to things, like close to a subject, yeah. I suppose it's obvious, but yeah, usually you only need 3 or 4 image stitch. But you know, obviously when you're up higher, you know, you sort of, then you're doing the full, like, you know, 5 to 7 image stitch. Sometimes I do 7 just to do a major overlap. If it's something really good, and you know, on the right side of the screen, I use a crystal sky screen.
Ah, right.
Yeah, and I use the big one, not the smaller one.
Yeah.
It's so much better than the smart controller. You know, the smart controllers, apparently the what do you call it? The range is less.
Oh, right.
Yeah, apparently something instead of 7, but I don't think they can go 7 anyway. But they can go
Well,
5.
that was actually one of my questions, Jim, is what do you think the effective range is?
I think it's about 5, honestly. Yeah, I've chased. I don't do it anymore because, you know, like, you can't post photos of whales, so I've stopped doing it a long time ago, taking photos of whales. But the times when I did go out looking for whales, you got no obstacles, you're just straight out to sea. And I think it's about 5Ks from memory. I remember one time in the Phantom, and it was a westerly blowing, and the battery was that low, I honestly thought it wasn't going to make it back. It was that low that it came back and landed, and then it just shut down by itself. It sounded like zero, like you can't get any closer.
I know about zeros.
Everybody
I know all about zeros.
It's nerve-wracking watching Paul fly. Jeez. Oh.
Everybody that owns a drone has got a story to tell, I reckon. You know, like about some sort of close call where it's disconnected or where the screen's gone blank. I remember one time I was using an iPad, and I forgot to, you know, the iPad ran out of battery.
Oh.
No, you got a black screen, you know, like, just, at least you can hit the home button, But then
Yeah.
Sometimes if you took off next to a rock, right next to, say, a big boulder, and like they'll land sometimes like 3 feet away from where it took off, if it lands by itself. There's been times I've actually had to catch it, like on the way down, stuff like that, so it doesn't hit a rock. There's one time there a few weeks ago, a couple of months ago in Norfolk, I was flying that Mavic Pro 2, and it was 100% freshly charged battery. And within 2 minutes of saying critical low battery, 0%. And I was over the water, and just got back to the, and they still fly down and land, but it gives you about a minute, not even a minute or something of flying time. And you can see on the screen what's going on, and just made it to sand, and I raced up the beach to get it real quick because I was worried about, I didn't know how far up the sand had landed, so it could have been right near the water line, So I raced up the beach, like sprinted up the beach to grab it before, just in case the water was going to wash up and wreck it. But luckily it was above the water line. I picked up, wasn't even 1 grain of sand under it. I picked it up and it was just like dead clean. I couldn't believe it. But I've lost, in a couple of months before that, I lost one in the Insurance Channel, a drone, critical low battery, freshly, and I had to carry fresh insurance on it, and so I didn't bother trying to dispute it with DJI because of all the red tape you would have to go through. And don't get me wrong, I think DJI are very fair. I'm sure they most probably, if I showed them the flight records and went to and fro about it, they would have given me another drone. But I just had to carry fresh. I just paid $150 and sent them the waterlogged drone, and got a new drone. Yeah.
Jim, my understanding, because I've got the same, and it wasn't until I read the fine print later, I went, wait a minute. If you don't physically hand them back the drone or part of it, you can't get anything. So if you lose it out to sea, then it's tough to
exactly. It doesn't matter how smashed up it is or waterlogged or ruined. As long as you give them a drone back, they'll give you another one. But if no drone, no.
It must be to stop insurance fraud and that sort of
thing. Yeah, that's what it's about. Yeah, that's what it's about. But this
I imagine it's not uncommon for people to lose their drones up trees and out to sea. That must be very common.
Oh yeah, there'd be so many drones in the ocean.
You can get flotation devices for the drone, so that if I think they deploy once it detects it's got wet basically, and they'll blow up and make the drone float at least on the surface of the water. So if you're able to swim out there or get a boat out there or something, or you could wait for it to wash in or something like that. So
I never heard that, Lucky.
Yeah, I think they're called getterbacks. They just strap onto the arms of the drone, and
will they slow it down and make it a bit heavier?
Right? Drag or weight, the weight glide rate ratio. The weight would affect it and drag, except like ball saying. But I mean, surely they wouldn't make a thing that was going to be a dud. It'd have to work.
Oh yeah, I think it's I think they're pretty lightweight, but I don't know what the effect is of it, but it's definitely something that and I guess also you get your footage back and everything like that too. Yeah. So it's probably, if you're doing specialized sort of work over the water where something could happen, I guess it's not a bad option. But whether
you're over the water a lot, Jim, from what I can tell.
Every day, yeah.
And I guess the other thing too is like keeping the drone sort of salt free, or like making sure that the salt isn't getting in there and doing its nasty damage as well.
I had to send a P4P down to Camzilla a few weeks ago because the camera was just like flying along. The gimbal was on a 45-degree angle, unusable. And so I sent it down, and they fixed it up. And it was the ribbon had come off.
Okay.
Or dislodged, and he said there was a lot of salt on it. And I missed stuff like that. Surfing shots with the Phantom 4 Pro, flying super low, and especially when the westerly's blowing pretty strong, or southwesterly, any westerly wind, and you get the spray off the waves. I've got shots where the pitch is just water droplets, like. That low and close to the wave, and but obviously not doing the drone any good. But my theory there is that the drones, because a new drone comes out every year or two, and they're worth nothing to sell, so it's only got a lot. I think of it this way: it's only got to last a year or two, and then it's finished anyway.
Well,
So
certainly the amount that you fly, Jim, you well and truly got your value for money out of it by the end of it.
exactly.
So,
And I'm thinking to myself too, because it's, even if it is getting a lot of salt on it, because it's like getting a lot of use, it's most probably, you know, it hasn't got time for the corrosion to sort of stop moving parts and stuff.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's not sitting around, yeah.
But,
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, there's certainly a few things to think about there, but yeah, it's unfortunate with electronics and salt water. It's always one of those things.
yeah.
Cool. We'll move on. We did have one question on YouTube actually from Jim, another Jim, and he's just asked, "Can you shoot with a drone in light fog? Is that something you've flown in before?"
Yeah, I love shooting in the fog. Yeah, yeah. I think what I can gather, the sensors can play it a little bit in the fog because of like the water droplets. Or, like all fog is cloud on the ground. You know, it's really, fog is cloud. People sort of tend to think fog is something else, but it's all it is cloud. You know, so it's saturated air, so it's water droplets, and so so they can play a bit of havoc with the sensors. I've heard that to fly really low over the water in fog is dangerous because the sensor underneath might not work properly. But I think flying in fog, as long as it's not too thick, obviously. I mean, you're not going to fly in super thick fog anyway because you're not going to see anything. You know, so you're not going to take photos of cloud, you know, like grey. So, and plus how would you say, you know, doing the right thing, like Casper and all that sort of stuff.
Visual line of sight and all. Yeah. Definitely.
Got to do the right thing. So just flying light fog where, you know, you're still seeing, you know, good visibility. Yeah.
So have you sort of taught yourself, or have you done some training courses or any other sort of REOC stuff? Or
lessons from my daughter. I'm glad you asked that question actually, because I wanted to mention her because Paul, because my wife and I are in Hawaii. This is like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, holidaying over there, and she texted me and said, "Oh, Dad, I want to buy a drone." She's like, you know, early 20s at that stage, and want to buy a drone, you want to go halves? And I said, yeah, sure, no worries, you go ahead, you know. So she bought the drone. So when we got back, she'd already bought the drone. It was like a P3 Advanced, and she gave me my first lesson down Long Jetty on the foreshore there, and you know.
Well, she never got it back.
Oh well, we sort of shared it, but ended up I ended up just giving her my half, and I bought another drone. Because it's too hard trying to share, you know. But it's funny. But
the rest was history.
Sorry.
The rest was history after that.
Yeah. She still loves flying it. Well, she borrows my drone from time to time, but she doesn't fly she's actually a very good photographer. She does a lot of
more lifestyle kind of.
Yeah, lifestyle photographer.
Yeah.
And she's done a lot of work with this a writer, and they got a lot of free trips with Instagram. She's been to like New Zealand, Philippines, I think Hawaii, Kimberley's, a couple of South Pacific Islands. A lot of spots. So she's done over there, but at the moment she's doing quite a few homes that are like really fancy homes for sale, where they don't want your standard real estate shots. She does these amazing shots of houses, like inside shots and outside shots, and those real like deep, beautiful compositions where you get like part of the dining suite, and then the kitchen, part of the kitchen in the background, and the prop plant or something. You know what I mean? Just these really magazine style.
It's not your average sort of thing you see in the paper of a house. And, yeah,
she does really.
It's funny. I was just doing some of that recently. Or should I say, trying to, and I just realised it's harder than you think. You have to have a wonderfully graphic eye and a beautiful sense of balance. You've got to understand design. You've got to get your head around the technical aspects of what is often really difficult lighting conditions to deal with that don't work very easily in single shots at all. And most of the lenses you have will introduce bows and curves and all sorts of different things into the shot. if it's not like, you know, exactly at a 90-degree angle and horizontally. And so it's actually a real craft. And I have a much greater appreciation looking after doing sort of Picnic Island and Flinders and looking at, say, Aaron's work, for instance, afterwards. I'm just sort of like, oh man, this is a real craft.
Yeah.
I've been shooting for a while, so it's not like I don't have a few clues, but it's really sunk in. It's
tricky. Yeah,
takes time to master.
Yeah, for sure. It's another whole field, Paul. The sort of photography is it?
At the upper end, absolutely. You can see why they become really popular, and it can be a consistent income, I guess, when you're at that kind of level, because not everyone can produce work.
Exactly. Yeah.
At the high level.
Yeah, she gets a good hourly rate, and she does. It's not. Doesn't. Yeah, she's charging a sensible fee. Yeah,
that's good. Yeah. Might move on to the next shot and see what we've got here. Oh wow, that's gorgeous.
I did have permission for that shot. I just thought I'd throw that in there.
Yeah, no, fair enough too, because the airspace and all of that. Yeah.
But that was balloons aloft. Just like it gives you free rides on balloons, and he's a nice fella.
Another heart shape, Jim. I'm starting to see a pattern here.
Yeah, I know. I sort of didn't mean to put that in, but then it was there, and I thought, oh yeah, I'll chuck that.
No, isn't it stunning? It's right at the moment that the flame's coming up as well, and you can see it.
Yeah, exactly. The flame there, and then in the background too, the coal train running through there.
Oh right, of course. Yeah, it looked like a fence or something like that.
Yeah, I even when I first
just through there.
Yeah, through there.
And then what I really like too is how well the highlights are controlled. Often when you're shooting into the sun like that, the sun can get all jagged on the edges, and I guess sometimes you can put like some sort of blur or light bleed or something like that just to soften it down. But it certainly looks a lot more attractive when it's a bit more of an orb than like the really harsh edges are on the highlight there as well, which is really awesome.
Thanks very much. It's actually, you made me remember to mention something there too, Luke. And that's with the drone, I shoot like usually about -1.3. Like,
oh really? Wow, that low.
Pretty dark. Yeah, just to retain the highlights.
Yep.
Yeah, I found that to be, for me anyway, it's just like a nice setting for single shots. Like
that would be more on when you're shooting an oblique though. When you're shooting top down, it would be more, or is it the same for top down as well?
Yeah, just sort of have it sun right through. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. And because the dynamic range on the 2 is really good, it can sort of handle it. You can just bring out all the detail and the shadows and bring down the highlights, and it's pretty amazing, isn't it, when you think about it? Like all those years you're shooting the DSLR with grad filters, like I never dream of shooting sunrise and sunsets with a DSLR without a grad filter and a tripod.
Yeah, that's right.
And on the drone, I've just never even hardly used filters at all. Just as I said earlier, just the only time I use a filter is an ND filter for slow shutter, specific slow shutter.
Which one do you like to use? Like 6-stop or higher, or
just that? I tell you the truth, I'm not even sure what it is. It's I just use those Polar Pros, and it's a 258 and a 258's a weaker one, because it's got those 258. I mean, what's that mean? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how many stops it really is, to tell you the truth, Paul, but there's I think it's a 128 and a 258, and then there's a stronger one, and I got this other one. It's like a even a stronger one again. Like, I haven't used it yet. You can only use it in like broad daylight, middle of the day or something. It's that strong, like that dark.
Yeah, almost sounds like a 10-stop or something.
Yeah, it'd be like a 10-stop, I reckon. But I'd say the one I mostly use would be about a 3-stop, I'd say. Yeah. Otherwise, I found, with doing top downs with water spinning around the rocks and stuff, you can only get like one. I think the only time I've got the longest exposure I've got, it was reasonably sharp, was say a 3 second, I think.
Wow.
But
I'd say 3 seconds.
3 seconds, yeah. But,
that's a long time.
Yeah, it was only, like, when I say sharp, it was sort of not perfectly sharp, but from a distance it looks sharper. When you're getting closer, you know, I mean, you can see it's not really that sharp. But yeah.
What about the relative wind speed to the shutter speed?
Yeah, I reckon like nil wind obviously would go. Like, I've actually got like pretty sharp shots off, you know, like 5 knots or 10k wind blowing, but that'd be a you know, half a second or something. You know, not a second.
Yeah.
You're pushing it for a second, but I found too, you know, as we all know, if you got really fast flowing water over rocks where the waves just like fang across the white water's really flying really fast across the rock, a half or a quarter second is still really good. You know, you don't really need that 1 second, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, 1 second, even 1 second, a lot of the times, a bit dodgy.
I managed to open the box on mine, and I never saw it again before I had a chance to use them.
Yeah.
Well,
So I put the straight polarizer on, and then it promptly managed to lose the entire lot, including my regular non-polarized cover. And so all I've got is a little polarizer. But I was really intrigued by that aspect. I mean, as you know, I love abstract work, and I feel like introducing movement helps to create a more painterly feel, and introduces a lot of emotion into images sometimes. And so I was quite curious about the specifics of what you can get away with, you know, which is why I was asking, like, you know, how many seconds can you get away with, or can you only do it with no wind, or, you know, and that takes a lot of time to figure that out. So it's much easier.
Really trial and error with that sort of stuff.
Much easier asking someone like yourself. It's done a lot, or Lukey.
But do you use tripod mode at all with that, Jim, or have you found that to be any better, or it doesn't make any difference?
I was using it when I first got the drone tripod mode, and I realised it's you don't need it.
Yeah,
you get some only for video.
Yeah,
I've heard other guys, and then other guys I've seen on the drone sites, and that guys talking about it, and girls, and they sort of confirmed it. They said, you know, not needed. Tripod it doesn't hold the drone steadier. It's still, you know, will move around just as much.
Yeah, I guess it's more if you're moving the drone through, I don't know, if you're wanting to move through a gate or something like that, where you really want to have that precision. Yeah,
that's where it forces you to fly like 2 miles an hour instead of if you accidentally hit the stick a bit quick. It's
totally changes the sensitivity. Yeah,
just like it'll creep along at a snail's pace no matter what you do. You know, you push the stick.
Yeah, I get the sense it's designed more for video.
Yeah, that's it. It's more video
in general.
Video or precision flying. Yeah, when you're really trying to get into a tight area or something.
Or
maybe really controlled mapping, Lukey, maybe of.
Even that it's probably better to do that automated anyway. So
and just sort of getting back to the slow shutter stuff. Another thing I forgot to mention was you just take heaps of shots. Just take bang, you know, like take 50 shots or something. To get one shot, you might need to take, you know, 20, 30, 40, 50 shots. Just take shot after shot after shot, because it's just such a jackpot. Like, you know, you get one shot, it's just blurred as unbelievable, and the next shot will be half sharp, and then the next shot will be quite sharp. You know, like it's real hit and miss.
Right. No rhyme or reason to it. Yeah.
So just take tons of shots.
That's the advantage of digital, I suppose, isn't it? And you know, micro SD cards are super cheap at the moment. Do you have a particular size that you use actually? Like, some people say they don't like to use really big ones because they don't want to like lose a whole bunch of shots or something like that.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but I just use the 64 gig SanDisk, the fastest one. I think it's about $50.
Yep.
Yeah, I just bought one the other day. I try and not use them. I mean, I try and like change them every 6 months, roughly. 4 months or something like that. You know, one of them's even starting to bend. I don't know why.
Oh, right.
Going in and out of the drone.
Well, I doubt anybody's memory cards get as much of a beating as yours. I don't know anyone alive that would shoot as much as you. So.
That's so true. It's probably got grooves in it from where your fingernails pull it. That's good.
You want to throw in another crazy drone story? I'm sure you got plenty. Close calls.
One time I was WA, and with my mate Mika Ruby, and we were there last year in Shark Bay, and I took both drones. I took them Mavic Pro 2 and the P4P as a backup. You know, usually from sort of going anywhere, I always obviously take 2 drones because they can just play up, you know, and most of the time not, but occasionally, you know, things can happen. And but yeah, it was just like it was down about 18% battery, I think it was, and I was flying. We were out in the middle of nowhere, and we hired this forward drive for the day, just to get up right off the beaten track. And the drone's about 80 feet high and only about 100 meters away, and it just dropped out of the sky. Like from the 80 feet, literally dropped out of the sky. I didn't just somersaulted down to the ground.
No way.
10%, but Camzilla were really good. So I went back to and fro from them, and they sent it to DJI. And anyway, cut a long story short, they gave me a new drone for $250, brand new drone. So it was really good. And
through the refresh?
no, I don't think it was through refresh either. I think the refresh had ran out.
Oh, right.
And, yeah, Camzilla really good. Yannick works for Camzilla, the top guy, and he's really helpful. And yeah, I got a brand new drone for $250.
Certainly pays to have those good relationships and
yeah,
be able to talk to everybody nicely and be able to, I guess, explain what happened and, you know, put your case forward.
So people that don't know, like a new body, just a body with one battery is what, 2,300 odd, Lucky? Or
yeah, 2.5 now.
Yeah,
for
2.5,
Mavic
and then
yeah.
realistically, you want to get the Fly More combo with the multiple batteries, and that pushes it closer to 3. So when you're talking $250, that's a lot better than 2,500. So just to put the scale on things.
Oh, it's worth having the care refresh. It really is. And you got to, you know, buy it within 24, 48 hours of purchasing the drone, after you purchase the drone rather, and also before you activate it too. It's another thing too. You got to buy the insurance before you activate the drone. I didn't realise that, but I did it. I've always done it that way, but then realised later that, you know, that you have to do it that way. Yeah.
How many
can
batteries
do it
do
after
you
the
have?
fact.
Oh, can you?
Yeah, you can, but you have to send in a video and
That's right.
do
That's
this.
right. Yeah,
But it is possible. But it's a bit of a rigmarole. So it's
I
definitely a lot
looked
easier
at the
to do
video.
it.
It was quite painful.
Yeah.
because of the serial number and.
Oh, did you do that, Paul?
I just had a look at it as an option.
Oh,
and
right.
it looked like it was pretty painful.
Yeah, a bit of fiddling around.
Painful but possible. So for people who don't know, basically drone insurance in general is quite expensive,
And
and
there's normally a very big excess.
when
I
you
don't
and a
know
huge
that.
excess is well, I won't go into it. You can decide, look, if you want to go into it. But DJI in particular has offered this refresh package, which means in the first year, like, you're allowed 2 crashes basically, and you'll get 2 replacements only if you physically send the drone back.
Exactly. Yeah.
And also, I think it has to be within the 1 year. And you also have to pay, is it $160?
Mavic, I think it's 150 or 160. Could be $159. I think it was.
Yeah, that sounds about right. 159.
Yeah.
So, so effectively, it's unlikely, I guess, if you've never flown a drone in your life in the first year, unless you're Luke, which I don't think he did. But
I've only had one accident in 3 years of flying.
I had one, but I'd just gone over to New Zealand and I didn't know that it wasn't valid outside of the country of origin. So I was on my first day of a 6-week trip I was planning on droning the crap out of, and I toasted my drone trying to film my nephews doing motocross at 50 k's an hour through some trees, which was never going to be a good idea. And I couldn't do anything about it until I got back to Australia. So that's another thing to be wary of. So I almost thought about buying one and selling it just so I had one there, but it caught me out, that one.
It's nasty.
I had a drone stop working in Iceland, and I had to. It wasn't because of an accident or anything. It was just the gimbal with the Mavic Pro 1. The gimbal was very sensitive and would often have problems, and it just wouldn't work. Basically, I think the ribbon cable gets really damaged because it can flip from landscape to portrait, and I think by doing that all the time, it actually wears the ribbon cable out. Yeah, it was not usable at all. I had all these beautiful days in Iceland where I could have been flying and the drone wouldn't work. So and then I was going to Norway next, and I was just like, I just have to buy a drone now. 'Cause I can't not have it for this trip. So it was very expensive trip, but yeah. Anyway, that's yeah. When it's out of action, it's out of action, and you just sort of have to think of what could have been, basically.
So you went from
So Jim, Luke and I, Luke and I talk about this a bit in terms of because I tend to push the batteries probably harder than you should, or most people do. But I don't think I know anyone that would have used batteries as much as you have. Do you get a sense of? Do you aim for a particular time to get the battery back to give it longevity, or you just push it really hard, or do you notice that it loses capacity if you tend to push it harder? Or
I think I usually keep an eye on the percentage, you know, and just basically it sort of depends on how far away you are with the drone, how far away the drone is from you when it goes on low battery. When it goes on low, you know, the low percentage warning comes up. I usually have it set for like 25. I think it defaults 30%. I set it for 25%, and then just when I hear that going off, and I'll keep my eye on it anyway, just fly back and come in and land. Or fly back, or if I'm a fair way away, just come back to closer vicinity where I am. So when it does go on low battery, I haven't got far to fly. And if I'm in an area where I don't know very well, I actually just check the feet, or how far in feet away I am, because I work in feet, not meters. So, you know, if you're 3,000 feet away or 5,000 feet away, you know, you're a reasonable distance away. But if you're, 500 feet away, you know, you're close, you know. So if you, so I sort of, when I know the battery's getting low, I just start heading home, basically. You know what I mean? Like heading back to where I am.
So that's what normal people do, Paul.
Oh yeah, you know, I never consider myself to be that normal. I've said it before on another show, Jim, but just out of curiosity, I did an experiment where I was coming back late already, and I got a friend of mine to stand under the drone just in case it fell, and it flew for almost 3.5 minutes after zero.
Really?
Not recommended.
Cool.
I was already past zero anyways, and I was already back, so I was like, oh well, let's just see how far we can go. I'm quite curious, you know, and it was, and then it actually lowered itself at that time. It didn't fall out of the sky. It was 3.5 minutes. Yeah.
No, the amount of technology in the failsafe that they have built into it, the likelihood that it'll literally drop out of the sky like it did for Jim, or did with that trip in Shark Bay, you know, it's just almost unheard of, really.
Very rare. Like, that was such a freak. That was really bizarre. Like, when I've had those critically low batteries on the Mavics, which has happened twice, they just comes down and lands nice and smooth. You know? But to have it drop out of the sky, that was bizarre.
Well, I've had a lot of blank screen and what's the word that lose connection stuff. Like, that's kind of scary, especially when it's out on the water somewhere and you don't know where it is and you can't see it. It's like awkward.
Yeah, it's still a lot of smarts built in. Like the UAV knows that there's no connection now, and it will just return to home if hopefully that's what you have it set to do. So even, you know, that a flyaway must be pretty rare as well these days, just with the programming.
Pretty rare. I mean, another thing I do in the menus, I have it set for 400 feet return home. I think the default's like
that's really high. Yeah,
about 150 feet or something.
Yeah, 30 meters I think it is. Yeah,
30 meters. Yeah,
just in case. I know you got some trees can be 100 feet, or you know, buildings can be high, or what. Anyway,
that's a pretty good idea, actually.
Yeah, I'm on at 60 meters, so
yeah, I should maybe make it a bit lower.
200 feet, I think.
But this is a bit, because they do get up and down quick. Actually, after having said that, it seems to take forever when it's on, you know, coming like in go home mode, and it's actually descending. It seems to take ages, but another thing too, I found you got to be careful of sometimes when I've been flying and on low battery. I've just had doing weird things like just I've had times when it's like flying like Siena mode or something like where it's just flying around almost aimlessly, like doing its own thing, like literally flying, not out of control, but just flying around a bit like loosely, and then you'd like take control of it and bring it back. But that's when it was been on low battery. And another time I've been on low battery and it's coming in the land and it's just like taken back off vertical in go home mode when it's almost to the ground. It's just like shot up in the air and gone on its own into go home mode when it wasn't in go home mode. So, in other words, what I'm saying is when you're on low battery, they can do some weird things. So
it's always good to try and get it back as without having to resort to that.
Do you find the performance of the battery goes down over time, or because you probably would have gone through more batteries than most people?
I think they're okay in that regard. The thing I've had troubles with is just those swollen batteries that send me nuts. Like, I mean, they haven't sent me nuts, but it's just I'm
not sure what you mean, Jim.
With the Mavic Pro 2, the older batteries in Mavic Pro 2, just about all my old batteries, when I say old batteries, only like, say, 18 months old, and they swell up. And what happens is they actually like come out of the, like,
you can't clip it into the drone properly.
Yeah, like even when you're flying, like when you take off, it's inserted properly, like it's flush, the battery's flush with the drone. When you come back, it's actually popped out a bit because the battery's actually swollen. And it's it can actually, I've heard people say that you can actually fly with swollen batteries, but it's just not worth the risk.
Oh no, it's not. I think that's a bad idea.
No, I think that I've got two over there that are stuffed, and I've had 4 swollen batteries that are useless, and it's like $1,000 worth of batteries is down the drain. And once they're over a year old, well, they've only got 6 months warranty, I think, and I think DJI will give you a new battery up to 12 months. They'll still honour it for a swollen battery, and I've even heard stories where over 12 months they'll. But I think you just got to go through some red tape and stuff and cause a bit of hoo-ha, and they'll replace it for you. But I just sort of couldn't be bothered mucking around.
Is it more of an issue in warmer climates, Jim?
I don't think so. I think it's just the batteries. Like
it's lithium-ion technology. I think it's one of the risks of that sort of technology. They're pretty powerful little batteries. What they can do. So.
Yeah, apparently one battery can charge a mobile phone for weeks or something. But what I'm saying is what I've heard or come to believe is that with the older Mavic 2 Pro batteries, the older ones, like the first released early stage batteries, they're all the problem ones, but all the later batteries, no problem. So if you're buying a battery now, you shouldn't have any problems with them. I think.
So my first drone was a Mavic 2 Pro, so I didn't have to deal with that. Is that one of the reasons that they built in the fact that they degrade in power so quickly? So people don't know that the batteries are one of the most intelligent parts of a drone, and where a lot of the technology actually lies in the batteries. And I think you've only got a choice between 1 and 5 days in terms of how long it takes to start.
They've just they've enabled an update. I think you can push it out to 10 days now.
Okay.
Yeah.
But was that even a factor in older batteries that they had that sort of?
That's definitely that power drain thing is a battery longevity measure. I'm pretty sure it's to do with the technology itself and how all of the cells work inside the battery, and my understanding is that it needs to do that to ensure that the battery does have longevity. Is what I believe, but it's been a while since I looked into that.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was a response to the swollen battery or if something been around for ages.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
interesting too. Well, it's interesting point you're making there about battery longevity. Like especially with my P4P, because I only use it for surfing shots, so you know, I've got 4 batteries fully charged, and if I don't use it for 2 weeks, there's a point where, just say a week, you haven't used those batteries, and then you go to use it, like, I'll take one out and you press the button, you know, saying fully charged, all the lights go green, and then I try and charge it up for a top up, but it won't charge because they're all green. But I just try it anyway. But when you go to fly the drone, as soon as you take off, it's like on 86%.
Oh.
You know what I mean? So it's a bit of a grey area. You know, like it's saying it's fully charged, but because you haven't flown for a week, it's actually 86%. So you can't really charge it till you've used that battery. But then, having said that, that's after 1 week, but if it's after 2 weeks, well then, sure enough, you're stuck in the blinking. You know, like 1 bar will be blinking or 2 bars will be blinking.
Okay.
You know, so you know, it all depends on how long that battery's been sitting there for. So
can't imagine your battery been sitting there that long unused, Jim.
Well, only on the P4P.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah,
even on the Mavic, the Mavics, and I rotate the batteries on the Mavic because I got 4 batteries. Well, I did have about 6 or 7, but I'm down to 4 because of those swollen ones. But I bought a couple more, but I have 4 at the moment. But I rotate them. You know, just say I used 2 batteries this morning. In my what do you call it, drone bag, I just like rotate them within the bag. You know, so the 2 I freshly charged, I put them in the bottom and use the ones that weren't so freshly charged first, so they're all getting rotated
equally. Yes.
Equally, yeah.
Jim, do you want to tell us a bit about this picture? I just realised we've had it up and we haven't even talked about it.
Yes, went out there. It's been about 6 weeks ago now. A mate of mine.
Out where?
Merriwa, and that was about 10 k's out of Merriwa, west of Merriwa, and which is about 3.25 hour drive from here, northwest, or west northwest actually, and yeah, we just got in there and we just hooked into it. Like, we got out there about half an hour before sunrise. We left at 3 a.m. Got out there about half an hour before sunrise and shot. That was the first place we shot, about 10 k's out of Merriwa. And then we sort of shot 4 locations, 4 batteries, and I had found them 2 as a backup, because I don't think I needed to use that. And then we finished shooting, you know, the light had sort of gone off a bit, and went and had breakfast in town and drove home. We were home by like 11:30, I think.
Oh, jeez.
So we sort of just got in and got out, you know. And,
sounds like a Lukey mission.
Sometimes
he tried to get me up at 2:15 the other day to be somewhere by 3 to go on a mission. I was like, I bailed.
Set 2 alarms, you'll be right, Paul.
When there's snow on,
I was still up at 1:30, so I was thinking, hello, 45 minutes sleep. I could probably do more than that.
Pushing it, yeah. True. You get by 2.5, 3, but yeah, an hour and a half's a bit rough. But yeah, this shot here was I think I cropped it in about 30% or something. It was just a bit, just to bring it in a bit closer. And it's just one of those ones that sort of works, it was just a simple shot.
Yeah, it's
like a wheat belt sort of type place.
Sorry, canola.
Canola.
Canola, yeah. All the canola fields.
they're really awesome shadows and awesome.
Yeah, beautiful design about it. That's what really stands out. Obviously, the color complement and the shadows are a key part as well, but beautifully designed.
And it's looks like there's a crease going through it here as well. It's much different to the straight lines. Yeah, and it's following the same angle as the shadows, which is handy.
Yeah, it's not like I think they're tractor tracks. They're actually the tractor.
Oh, right. There you go.
Yeah, they go through and space for them to do their business.
Yep.
And but yeah, it's sort of it's an amazing place amazing to shoot. Like, it roughly goes for, I think, maybe a month or 2 months. The shooting. But when it's colours up, and it's just been harvested. I think they harvested it last week and the weekend before. It's all like harvested now. There might be still some. I was talking to a lady that was comes from out that way, and she was just telling me that lot of it's sort of half of it's harvested now.
Okay.
And but yeah, I've seen a lot of photos of it recently on Facebook and stuff. You know, a lot of photographers go out there. Focus group, I think, had some, you know, organised groups going out there shooting stuff. And
yeah, there's some really awesome fields out that way. I remember when I was living in Sydney going out on a few canola missions and things like that. It's definitely... I didn't really have a drone then, though, so that would have been a much different perspective to be able to do that. So, yeah, really awesome.
which is fun.
Yeah, I was wondering too. I guess one of the thoughts with when you're flying drones is, you know, public perception and things like that in terms of the noise and things like that. Do you get much grief from people in the public, or do you try to be a bit discreet about how you fly? Or I guess you also out in sunrise a lot, which is often a lot quieter too.
That's what I love about sunrise. It's, you know, less people around, and and if there's people around, I usually just keep really like stealth, or you know, keep away from, like, even shooting down, say, long jetty. You know, I don't take off near the jetty. I take off away from the jetty, and away from people, and I never like fly. You know, I'll fly like around the jetty or fly really high above the jetty, so it's because of the noise, or you know, basically just. And if I do fly close to the jetty, I just and it's low, I sort of edge in really slow, just come across really slow, just so there's not this
I think that's
noise coming really fast at you. You know?
Yeah, a lot of the biggest noise is actually from the braking of the drone, where the drone is sort of trying to fly in the opposite direction to slow itself down.
Exactly.
And so if you're doing a lot of aggressive movements, it makes a lot more noise. And so if you're just approaching, like you're suggesting, really slowly and just ambling in, and also if you have a lot of elevation, quite often you can't almost hear it at all. So
exactly. Say 200 foot and above, like you know, below 400, like you barely hear it. It's really, as you say, exactly right. Like when you do those sudden movements, which I don't do, try and avoid those sudden movements, because you feel sort of a bit sorry for the drone too. So it's just going, you know, like, just like, you know, you just can't be doing it that much good. But you know, mind you, they're tough little things, are fun, and it's really strong winds. Like,
I was going to ask what you feel like the wind, the line of no return is for wind. Obviously, it depends, different between the Phantom and the Mavic, I assume.
Yeah, mind you, the Phantom can still handle the strong winds. There's a couple of things that the worst with the Phantom is, one is even just getting off the ground. Like, it's a really strong wind, you've got to like take off behind something to guard it from the wind, because they can topple over. I've had that happen quite a few times. Like,
right.
You go to lifts off and it just topples over because the wind just blows it over before it gets the momentum going. And the other thing is the gimbal just can't handle it. Well, if you're flying along in strong wind, you fly along, it just goes like this. It just tilts over. It's really acute angle. Then you back off the speed, and it corrects itself again. You know, got this constant battle of not constant, but quite a lot. It can happen quite a lot. And but with the Mavic, it just penetrates like anything, because it's, you know, just that flatter. I mean, you know, the Phantom's just that. It's just like a brick in the air. You know, it's so opposite to.
Not aerodynamic, really. Aerodynamic,
exactly. You know, it's and the Mavic, you know, in sports mode, it does. I think it does like 44 miles an hour, which is like 75 k's an hour. So
was it 75? I've only got mine to 50, and it was in sport mode. I must have to push the turbo button.
Well, actually, there's another thing too. Like, even when I got this new replacement Mavic, I thought, why is it? I got it in sports mode. It's still only doing like 30 miles an hour, 33 miles an hour or something. I think. But so I went into menu, and it's actually, you've got to actually enable it. It's not, you actually got to do it. You actually got to slide it across. Enable. I think it's something like enable intelligent flight mode. And then sports mode works. Until then, sports mode doesn't work.
Grasshopper. I think that explains it.
That's if, you know, if it isn't enabled. But what else was I going to say about that? I'm trying to afford, but,
that's a good trick.
They hit it all. Yeah, they hit it all there. Well, that's what I was going to say too. Like, so in strong winds, as long as the drone can do, you know, 10 miles an hour or 15 kilometers an hour faster than the wind speed, it's going to work. You know, you're going to be able to penetrate. I mean, one time I was shooting a storm down, and I think I got the shot in here, storm down the entrance, and the wind, you know, just as a storm gets closer, you get those squall lines come through, and the wind just goes from, you know, 10 knots to 40 knots, just like that, you know. And I was on the other side of the channel. I actually had to tack like a yacht back to get back, because I was actually couldn't penetrate. So I was flying across the wind, and then and I gradually just zigzagged the way back to the.
I think another strategy people say is to go really low as well, and obviously the wind's a lot faster the higher up you are. So
I've done that like on shorelines, like, you know, if you're down the beach and it's really strong westerly or something, and you've got the sand hills or the sandbank or grassy hills or whatever, you fly like super low and get down below, and you get out of the wind, out of the direct wind lines, you know.
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't think about the zigzag. I thought about the height, but that's a good tip.
That's the only time I've ever done it, actually, is that one particular time. I didn't honestly thought I was going to lose a drone, but
it's pretty scary when it's just sort of like sitting there and it's not moving. You can see the dot, and it's not. I think the other thing you can do is put in sports mode apparently as well, and that can actually give it enough power to actually push through those stronger winds as well. Apparently that's also a strategy to try in those sort of moments.
Well, the other major strategy is trying to fly into the wind first, so it's behind you on the way back.
Yeah, that's not bad. Sometimes you don't have a choice, but that can certainly happen.
Yeah, let's look at some more pictures.
Yeah.
That was at Davistown, actually Empire Bay, which is sort of just up the channel from Davistown, and that was another foggy morning, and I took the thin strip of land out of the top of that one, and again, that's the thing with the mast, like the land was just slightly above the mast, you know, because if the land's in line with the mast, well, it's going to be really hard to get. You'd have to be a whiz at Photoshop to make it work, you know.
There's a bird there as well. Yeah,
you just come across at the right time.
Yeah, nice.
There's no good thing about early mornings. You get a lot of birds buzzing around, you know.
Yep. Have you had any close calls with birds themselves? Because that can often be a problem.
With the Mavic more so than the Phantom, because the Mavic's smaller. I was flying the other day, and a magpie was attacking it. I knew it was going to be pretty safe. I've had the same magpie attacking a few times. It's really going. This is like going really close. But they're accurate flies. They know what they're doing, you know.
Yeah. And, if you don't do anything erratic and just just get out of their space, then it's normally quite good. Yeah.
Get back. It wasn't a problem. Mind you, if you're out in the desert or something and it was a wedge-tail eagle, you'd be gone.
There's I unfortunately I fly a bit on Bruny Island on private property, and the wedge-tailed eagles are out there, and when you hear one of them shrieking, that's a pretty scary time. So
down you go.
Yeah. So and they breed them big down here too, the wedgies. So
Massive Monday, they're like 12
foot. 2 meter wingspan.
What is it? 2 meter.
Yeah, I saw one today. It was down
biggest bird in the world.
It was 100 meters in the air, and you could see it so easily. It's just like, oh my goodness, it's a big bird.
2 meters. That's like 13.5 foot or something. That's huge. Yeah,
they're big birds.
It's massive.
Oh, what?
I wish that was me.
Yeah, nice left. There's that crackneck. That was one of the shots that got the shot that got the that and the snake shot, or the one with jet ski got the commended ones in the awards.
Yeah.
Actually, I think I cropped that one a bit in the awards. I think I cropped a bit of the left of that image out, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if I judged that one. I did judge the other one, I remember. Not that it was yours.
Lens flare, just like following the. Is that what it? That's lens flare.
Yeah, it's like lens flare. Yeah,
just happens to be just the right angle.
The right spot. You get the bit with the and it's sort of difficult shooting. Every time I shoot crackneck, and I love shooting that time of the day, because of that reason, you get the nice light and stuff. That virtually the screen is that, because I shoot dark with the screen, like minus I think I was shooting 1.7 to like minus 1.7. So the screen's like really dark. So yeah, it's really hard to see. And
Even with the crystal.
yeah,
Oh wow.
oh yeah.
So Crystal's a specialized third-party large
I think it's a
screen.
DJI one, isn't it?
It's DJI.
Yeah.
Yes. And they make smaller one. They make the smaller one, which is like the smart controller size or a phone size, and then the bigger one. This is the bigger one. And
Does that have the controller built into it as well? The crystal.
what it is, it's just the monitor.
Oh, okay.
It's got a special. I didn't buy the DJI because I reckon it wasn't as good.
It's got a hood.
Aftermarket clamp thing that clamps onto the bottom of the monitor and then goes onto the controller. And
So use the standard controller, but it's a specific DJI monitor made for drones. But and it's surprising, like if you have a direct sunlight on the face of a screen when you're flying, and it can be very like you contorting yourself into all sorts of different shapes to try and get into the shade, and it can be.
I always have my back to the camera, back to the light, you know.
Yeah, just to create that shadow.
Yeah,
no, that's amazing. And do you ever sort of feel like, you know, you're watching this with the drone and then, like, you know, hoping that the wave isn't higher than the drone is, or like sometimes the perspective can get a little hard to gauge. I suppose you know what height you're flying at, and so you know the theoretical max of the height that the wave could be, but
yeah, exactly. You sort of, I keep an eye on the altimeter. You got to learn to trust it with the surfing shots, the altimeter, and especially when you're shooting. It's different if you're not shooting the sun, but when you're shooting the sun like that, you sort of trust the altimeter, and you sort of, you get the feel of where you are, and usually if I'm following along and I think I'm a little bit too close, as I'm going along, I just sort of come up a bit at the same time and get a bit of height, just for a bit of safety.
So you're generally shooting while you're moving for shots like this? Are you tracking backwards?
Yeah, tracking backwards. Yeah. So I'll get in as close as I can when they take off. And just basically just continually just keep hitting the shutter button and follow them along. Following them along.
I've seen videos in Hawaii where you literally watch multiple drones like smashing into each other while they're doing this. Like shooting waves. That'd be hard to. You can't communicate when there's that much action going on.
That's the trouble. You got to be standing next to the guys. So you can keep height separation.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
I've flown with 2 or 3 other guys when we're chasing the bait balls around, and they're friends, and you even take turns at going at the lowest, and you basically keep them 10 feet. Want to be a 10-foot, want to be a 20-foot, want to be a 30-foot. You know, and that way you've got height separation. It's the only way you can do it. If you've got guys with drones, I just get out of there. I don't know. I just
that's right. If you don't know who it is, and anything could happen. But
a lot of the guys were there at Crackneck, I've flown with them, they just stay in one spot. Like they just get the takeoff, and they'll do like multiple exposures. What they call burst mode, or they don't follow, which is good for me because I follow the wave and they don't. So it's quite good. I don't have to worry about them.
I was just thinking too, with your strategy of underexposing to recover the highlights, you're also going to not have to push the ISO as high as well, which is also a big benefit doing that.
Yeah, it's always on the like 100 ISO.
Yeah. Do you ever get worried about shooting wide open like f2.8, or because I tend, I mean, it's a little bit softer, but it's still more than usable, isn't it? At 2.8 for you. Do you have a?
Is it usable for oblique shots like this, or only really for top down?
I think 2.8's.
It's such a small sensor. It wouldn't have much of a depth of field issue, I would have thought.
It's more. Yeah, exactly. It's more of a, not so much a depth of field issue. It's more of a sharpness issue.
Yeah. Where do you feel the sweet spot is with the Mavic 2 Pro?
I reckon around about 5.6.
Yeah. It's normally two stops above minimum.
Yeah.
Is what they normally say. Yeah.
Because it finishes in left 11, but 5.6, 6.3.
Yeah, so that variable aperture is awesome though, and you certainly notice that when you go back to a drone that doesn't have that, how useful that is, especially if you do a lot of video. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and there's times I shot the moon like just after dusk at 2.8 on 400 ISO, and just a couple of times I couldn't believe how sharp it was. Like, looked at stuff close up and it was pin sharp, and other times it's real, dodgy. Yeah, so
I've been really enjoying doing a lot of blue hour shooting lately. Actually, it's get some beautiful colours coming through. And with a Reoc, you can fly at night now as well, or later, once the sun's actually set. Whereas the standard operating conditions without a Reoc, I believe, you can only fly until sunset. So it's certainly handy to have those extra capabilities.
Yeah, the early twilight's like the cut off, I think. Yeah. I just follow the rule. Back in me before I might have been a bit wild, but these days I just stick to the rule. Very careful. Don't fly too high or do this or do that or take photos of whales or just.
Especially when you're professional as well, you've got reputation, and if you're doing commercial work as well, you don't want to have a reputation for not following the rules and things like that. So, apart from everything else, I mean, well, they say you should always do the right thing even if no one's watching. But
no, it's dead right. Most of my shots are, a lot of them are like below 100 feet. And I think of the camera on the drone as I treat it as like a normal camera. Like I shoot like crossways, or like shoot it 5 foot above the ground or 10 feet. Think of it, treat it as a normal camera as well as a flying camera.
Yeah, I noticed that actually, Jim, in some of your shots. That's also a little bit different from how a lot of people see it.
My goodness, is this that storm you're talking about?
Yeah, that was that storm. It was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. That was with a P4P.
Oh.
It's a little bit not edited that good. There's a few dodgy. It's not sort of finished that shot. That's why I didn't put any competitions, because I couldn't. I don't know. I just couldn't get around to finishing it properly. But there's some, what do you call it? Lines over there on the right.
Stitching error sort of things, or
what's that word for it? I can't think. I don't know as well as anything. Banding.
Oh, okay.
A bit of banding on there over there, and anyway, but no, it's basically off the camera. That was a really, it hasn't had that much done to it. I've done a bit of contrast in the cloud there, and done a bit of darkening and lightning, but it's pretty much not that much done to it.
You get those amazing storm cells coming through. Well, it's sort of this time of year, isn't it? Normally storm season, about November.
Right through summer and right up till April even, and last year it was looking good, and then hardly got anything. It was hopeless.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's funny. You can have your good years, and I love storms.
Yeah.
And I got cleaned up by one though down at Long Jetty once, and ever since then I used to be real blasé about them. Excuse me, I was using the normal camera because it was just too windy for the drone, and too just a hazardous conditions and stuff. So I had the tripod and the camera set up. This is about 2 years ago, and I was actually inside a picnic shed thing, like shooting, so you couldn't see the shed sort of thing, and I could see the wind lines starting to come across the lake, and I knew it was just going to hit really, really hard. And so I started packing up, and I was only half packed up, and it hit, and it was like a freight train. I never had any. I was actually fearing for my life. I was like, fearing injury anyway. Like I was expecting to get hit by a tree branch or flying objects, and I just had to sort of roughly pack up, and I was running the back to the car, felt like I was almost crawling back to the car, just opened the door of the car, just threw the stuff in and jumped in, and just from that couple of seconds the doors open, the car was just saturated inside, and it was just torrential rain, freight train winds.
Oh, sometimes it can be massive hail as well, if you're unlucky.
It just looks like a drone killer to me, mate.
That was a different storm I was telling you about, but this was that was the one about the zigzag back from across the other side of the channel. The channel's on the right side there, and I went over there first to sort of get more of a stuff in, like get the bridge in and get the township in, and then I took that just before landing because I was sort of just below that,
Yep.
And yeah, but it was a crazy cloud, crazy.
Well, yeah, those sort of UFO sort of
Yeah,
shapes. Yeah,
like one of those mothership ones.
yeah, that's it. I'll see
It
what.
looks like it's got a big hole in the middle to just suck everything up like a vacuum cleaner.
What else have we got? What? That's a close encounter.
Yeah, I think
Wow.
they put that on the news, that one, Channel 9
All
News,
right.
and local newspaper and stuff. Yeah, that was just a grey nurse, but it looks scary. You know, when the grey nurse touched that board rider, they were both as scared as each other. Both like done a 180, you know. The shark went that way, and they got.
It must be amazing actually watching that happen and being able to capture that and yeah, being sort of witness to these sort of things. It's really cool.
Yeah, turned out I knew one of those guys. I didn't know it was knew one of the guys from the running track. I used to do speed running, or like just training at a running track, like
Yep.
sprint work and stuff. And one of the guys knew from there. He was out there with his mates surfing. It was tiniest little waves, and they were down their mouths, their long boards. And yeah, his wife bought the image for him.
Oh.
I sold it at like cost price.
Yeah, it's. I always feel like if they weren't there, then you wouldn't have the picture. So it's
that's it. Yeah, things like that. I don't make profit on it. Just to do the right thing. But yeah, I put that one in just to show that you can get shot with a drone like a normal camera.
Oh wow! See, I would have thought that was just a standard camera.
Yeah, that's.
But you can
There's a
play
few
with the
tips from this
perspective.
place that I saw, and I thought the same thing. I was like, geez, we don't think about it, but there's no reason you can't use it from my height.
Yeah, that was about 5 foot or something, like head height. I think it was about a 4-image stitch. Yeah, a 4-image stitch.
Well, I mean, I guess when people think of drones, they think of doing something different other than what they can normally do, which is probably why. But
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely food for thought when you see things like that.
Yeah,
Oh,
pretty
and
good.
back to the start. Oh, and we're sort of almost perfectly on time there as well. Actually.
yeah, aren't we?
Yeah. So
It's like
I think
an hour.
we might I'll just check that there's no questions. I think we're good in terms of all that. Yeah, look, we just want to really thank you. I'll stop sharing here. There we go. Yeah, thanks so much for joining us, Jim, and we just really want to thank you. For, certainly, do apologise to some of the viewers if you haven't flown many drones in the past. Some of that would have sounded very, very technical, but it's actually amazing knowledge that Jim has, and from all of the many, many, many hours. Do you have any record? You know how DJI the app says how many flights you've done and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I never really. I think I looked at it once, but I forget how many. I can't remember actually, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Lose count after a while.
Yeah, it's funny.
Oh, you'd be up there with anyone in this country, I reckon, Jim.
Yeah, but no, so certainly some amazing knowledge there, and I've been very, very keen to talk to you for a long time actually about your drone work and all of that. So it's a real privilege to have you on here.
Like that sort of knowledge, that if you ever do get into drones, if you haven't already, go back and have another look at this, because the kind of knowledge that we talked about today is very hard earned, and you can have some very expensive mistakes before you find all that out. So you can save yourself a lot of time, stress, and drama, and be a little bit more proactive by acting on a lot of these things.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, just for being so open and sharing about your knowledge there too, Jim. We really do appreciate that.
Thanks in the mail, Jim.
And I guess the best place to follow your work, Jim's probably following your Facebook page.
Facebook. Look, I only post. I don't know why. I only post on Instagram about once or twice a week, but I'm just on Facebook virtually every day.
Oh God, that's more than me.
It's still a pretty high frequency for most people, but yeah, it's still.
What's your handle, Jim?
Pardon?
What's your handle?
It's just Jim Picot Photography.
Yeah, sorry. On Instagram it's just Jim Picot, and on Facebook it's Jim Picot Photography.
That's right. Yeah.
If we just have a look at it.
Richard Stanley is the guy I used to do the workshops with, and he has his gallery and does a top job. He's got the big Epson printer, and does a fabulous printing work, and Yeah.
There's some of your beauties behind you by the looks.
Oh yeah, that was actually, but you know, something's there all the time, you don't notice it, but then all of a sudden, oh, that's right, you notice it again. But no, don't get me wrong, I love framed prints and acrylics and stuff, and face mounts and all that. You know, it's amazing. And,
So Jim, if somebody wants a print, do you just like DM on either one of those channels, or?
I do have a website. There's only about 80 images on there, but you can order off the website, or just personal message me on.
And what's the website?
We'll have the website link in,
have it up.
in the YouTube description. But is it Jim Picot Photography or just Jim?
Yeah, jimpicotphotography.com.
Yeah, .com.
There you go.
Or order automatically online. There, it's got a shopping cart and stuff. Or if the photo is there that you don't want, you can just personal message me and I'll just organise it. And I'll just do printing. I do just printing because you know frames are so expensive, and you know I will get frame prints done for people, but I just do the prints and let them get a frame to save money. You know. But yeah.
Well, I find it's more about people independently have more understanding about the kind of frame that's going to suit their home or the space they're putting it in.
Yeah, exactly.
And letting them, work out with the local framer can be quite advantageous than trying to work it out remotely.
Exactly.
Plus sending prints to people is so much less problematic than having glass involved and insurance and that kind of thing. So I just find it practically, it makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. What I say to people too, I say, if you pick the print up personally, I'll give them a discount off the price, and that way.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Go and pick it up, and plus it's good.
Short flight from Tassie.
Yeah. And also that gives it's good business framers too, because they pick the print up and they go, oh, these look like nice frames, and pick a frame, or and that way they get some business, and and they save money because they're paying the frame and not paying me for the frame. They just pay me for the print. Yeah, so it works out really good. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Luke, too, because I always looked up to you guys for many years, and so
Feelings mutual.
I really feel privileged that you even asked me to come on here. So I think you guys.
We're Paul and I think I've been talking about having you on. How long, Paul? Like since almost
4 or 5 months at least.
Yeah. So no, it's we're glad that we could twist your arm and you're able to come on as well. So that was great.
Yeah, nice timing on the back of your rock star win there, Jim. That as far as I know, it is the biggest aerial contest in the world. That's a very significant piece of real estate. So get the mantelpiece ready for that one. And can you do us a favor and send me through, or I'll just message you, because I wouldn't mind getting a hold of my trophy as well. I might as well. And everyone, this is how unorganized I am. The email that I use for the contest, I'm now locked out of, so I had no idea what they've written me or said anything about the trophy. So I'm like, and Jim said, you have to tell them if you want it or you're not going to get it. And I was like, oh crap. So I've got to get onto that.
No, I'll forward that email to you. Yeah, definitely forward to you. Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, won't be flying to Siena for this one, will we, Jim?
That's it. That's COVID direct, all that. Yeah.
Well, I had a look. Did you see the photographs of the theatre that they have the awards in? It looks incredible.
Wow.
Like this huge, like ancient sort of amphitheatre, like sort of place with layers and layers, the kind of thing you see in the and those ancient sort of films, and it looks stunning. And everyone was wearing suits. I was like, it looks like a big deal. And I'm assuming that we still get part of the exhibition, though. I'm assuming that's still going ahead.
It's actually going to be in, I forget the name of it now, fancy place in fancy gallery there somewhere. They're going to exhibit our prints.
Awesome.
Yeah, for at least a month. It's quite consistent. So, and I think Siena is, I'm starting to learn it's a bit bigger and more significant than I thought, especially in the Northern Hemisphere. So, so I haven't really competed much on the Northern Hemisphere sort of contest. So it's tell you what though, I'll be tempted to go to Siena, mate. I love Italy, and that would have been enough. We could have we could have got a Trump seat in the back of Eco class, sort of talking it up, and then put on a fake suit when we got there and make out like we're bigwigs. It would have been great.
Go to the local second-hand store and pick out $10 suit.
Oh, it's been done. It's been done, Jim. I have done it before.
I see. Yeah.
All right, we better wrap up. and let all these good people on with their evenings as well. But next week we've got Steve Scalone joining us, talking about urban landscapes. So we'll be providing a bit more. And yeah, thanks everybody for joining us tonight, and thank you again so much, Jim, for joining us. And all the best with your future shoots. I'm sure you're probably out tomorrow morning again as well. But yeah. But yeah, no, it's been a real privilege. And on that note, we'll bid you farewell and have a good night, everybody.
Thanks, Luke.
Cheers, Jim. Thanks so much, mate.
Hey guys.
A lot of you